By the 90s, Robert Altman was pretty much done with Hollywood. He'd been around forever, made everything from MASH to Gosford Park, and he hated what the industry had turned into. He once said, "The business is run by accountants who, as long as a film makes $40 billion, don't care if it kills the industry." And here we are in 2025 watching it play out in real time. Altman never held back. If he thought a movie sucked, he'd say it. But for all the films he had opinions on, there were only two from the 90s that he absolutely couldn't stand, and both of them were massive. Back in 2000, American Beauty was the movie. 5 Oscars, including Best Picture. Over $350 million at the box office off a tiny budget. Critics raved about it. Kenneth Turan called it a hell of a picture in the LA Times. Alan Ball, who wrote the script, thought it would just be some small art house movie. Instead, it became a statement, a major critique of middle-class malaise, suburban repression, the whole deal. Then time passed. 9/11 happened. The economy tanked. Kevin Spacey became Kevin Spacey. And suddenly, what once seemed edgy and provocative just felt gross. The whole movie started sinking under its own weight. Even Sam Mendes admitted that all the awards attention hurt the film in the long run, saying the only place it could travel after that was towards backlash. But Robert Altman wasn't impressed even back then. He straight up said, "So badly acted and directed, but people like that. Guess they really don't anymore." And here's a funny little connection. Same year, American Beauty swept the Oscars. Breakfast of Champions came out, a Kurt Vonnegut adaptation, completely buried by American Beauty. But back in the 70s, that was the movie Altman actually wanted to make. A whole host of directors had tried to crack this thing and nobody could. Everyone said it was impossible. Altman spent years trying to crack Breakfast of Champions, never did, moved on, only for it to finally get made and completely overshadowed by a movie he thought was garbage. Titanic is in a weird spot. It's one of the most beloved movies ever made, but it's also one of the most hated, beloved movies ever made. They said that Leo as pinup element rendered the film a kind of Oscar bait version of Twilight, that the movie was something cheesy and all too marketably romantic, a teen idol bedroom poster in movie form. And back in the late 90s, a lot of directors absolutely hated it. My favorite comes from the French New Wave guy Jacques Rivette. He once said, "It's been such a success with young girls, especially inhibited, slightly plump American girls who see the film over and over as if they were on a pilgrimage. They recognize themselves in her and dream of falling into the arms of the gorgeous Leonardo." Compared to that, Altman was almost gentle. He didn't go on some long rant about it. He just dismissed the whole thing outright. He just said it was the most dreadful piece of work I've ever seen in my entire life. Obviously, that didn't stop Titanic from becoming one of the biggest films ever. Adjusted for inflation, it made $3.6 billion. It won a record number of Oscars. James Cameron stood on the Oscar stage and screamed,
"I'm the king of the world!"
and went right back to making billion-dollar movies. He didn't care at all what Altman or Rivette thought.